Hey guys, and welcome to Creator Cast episode 2. I'm going to be joined here with a friend of mine, another content creator on YouTube, and a frequent collaborator, Your Favorite Son. He's most known for his Legacy of Kain videos and his Yakuza videos, and more recently he dived into The Witcher and Metal Gear Solid, and is about to begin working on a brand new series throughout 2025. He is a brilliant editor, a great script writer, and a good voice actor, and I'm excited to have him on. Your Favorite Son, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited that you have joined me. I have some pretty fun questions that I'm excited to ask you about. And one of them, I always wondered about this, and I know you've gotten some questions about this before, but I thought this would be a great opportunity for you to explain, what is your favorite son? What is that?
I mean, it's just a name. It's just a gimmick, really. When I was making my YouTube channel, I felt like I needed some sort of gimmick, because that's a good way, to catch people's attention.
Yeah, gimmicks. That's what they're for.
Yeah,
typically.
Yeah. But I think the way it started was my original name on something. I can't remember what it was Your Dad's Favorite Son, because I kind of thought that was funny.
Your Dad's Favorite Son.
Yeah, because I think it was like in an online game or something.
Okay.
Because it's like, I'm better than you, I guess. But I made it. It was too many characters to show up all at once on YouTube, so I just made it Your Favorite Son. But then I kind of liked that because I felt like it was, I don't know. There's a bit of commentary there on like parasocial relationships and the relationship that the creator has with the viewer. So yeah, just stuck.
That's pretty interesting. I think you've told me about that before, how it's kind of a commentary on the fact that like creators are always vying for the audience's attention. And so in that capacity, whenever you address your audience as dad, it's kind of a commentary on that. It's like all of the creators are like children vying for our father's attention.
Yeah. I mean, who is the ultimate figure that you want validation from? It's your father. Doesn't apply to everybody, but it's obviously the archetype. It's that archetype of validation from the father.
It's like a lens of looking at content creators and how we on these platforms make content to appease an audience. I think that's pretty cool. I think that I haven't seen you lean into that gimmick a ton. Is there a particular reason for that, or do you just it's not that deep and you're just trying to make videos about video games?
Yeah, I think it's definitely secondary. It's just sort of branding, and I think I've kind of hesitated to provide any sort of commentary on it because I've seen so many people have weird interpretations of it, for sure, but also I've seen a lot of people say, like, send me messages or leave comments saying like it was really, I don't know, impactful to them, maybe because of their personal relationships or something like that. I don't know, but I think it means something different to different people, so I just kind of let people,
it's pretty cool,
have whatever interpretation of it they want. So
yeah, I feel like most art, even little like marketing gimmicks like that, can have influential interpretations. Do you have a favorite interpretation you've seen, something funny that amused you?
There's a lot of people that have thought that like I was gonna do some lore thing with it, that like one day there'd be like a skit at the beginning of the video and I'd be like, hey, that's my dad, like reveal some backstory, like an ARG or something, but I'm not doing that. So
that's not coming.
No, that's
don't
not
look
happening.
forward to the Your Favorite Son ARG.
No, I don't. I think maybe that's for some people, but it's not really for me.
It's not something you're interested in.
Nah.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it served you pretty well in terms of the way that you've branded your channel and whatnot. How do you think that branding has influenced the way you go about creating your content, if at all?
I mean, I think I don't know if it's probably a chicken or the egg scenario, which came first, but I think I've always tried to be extremely personal with my content and my coverage of games, because I think, especially with something like YouTube, when you're one person behind the channel or the content, for the most part, it behooves you to put as much of yourself in it as you can, because I think that sets you apart. And especially when we're covering games that other people have covered before or that might have gotten a lot of coverage, one of the only ways that you can really stand out is if you are putting a piece of you, what is truly unique, into your content.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you when you go about making your content, how do you see the way that you make it? Like, what kind of tone are you striving to achieve? You know, some people have a type of tone and atmosphere that they're going for whenever they're editing their videos and presenting them. What do you think your general tone is that you try to achieve consistently throughout your content?
General tone, I think, is, I don't know, because I think sometimes I definitely lean towards more serious, more, I think if I had to describe the channel in like a short phrase, it would just be like taking games seriously.
I like that.
Because
you should probably put that in your bio. That's pretty good. Taking games seriously.
Because I think that's important, I think it's important to take games seriously. I also think it's important to just have fun with games. That's something that we don't do very often either. But I just feel like people don't take games as seriously, even though we've entered an era where games are considered art. That's a very common sentiment that a lot of people have now, and it's not something that's really up for debate anymore. We still fail to take it as seriously, I think, as other mediums sometimes. So I think taking games seriously is the one thing, but I also like to have fun with it. I'm not above making jokes or anything, or having fun with the game, or the criticism of it.
So you think video games as an art form, even though, like you said, they're definitely being taken significantly more seriously than they have been in the past, but
definitely
you would say that a part of your channel is striving to kind of like unveil some more of just how sincere some of the art in these games actually is.
Yeah, and just how I think, because games are so interactive, they're inherently more personal, and just how games can, games affect you in ways that I think you don't really see, or the average player doesn't really see. It's not always about the story and like the theme or something. Like that's a big part of it, but it's not always about that. Like I covered Resident Evil pretty recently, and one of the big things that jumped out at me about that game was how the horror wasn't just in the things that were happening and the monsters that were present and the scares. It was in the mechanics. Like, it was embedded into the game itself. It was a part of everything. And I think that's something people maybe don't think about very much. I haven't watched a lot of coverage of Resident Evil, so I wouldn't know if that's a very largely talked about thing, but just trying to point out those things that people don't pay attention to enough. I think people overlook mechanics. I think the general person overlooks like level design and how things meld, and how those things, the mechanics, and the functions of the game, feed back into the themes or the things that the game is trying to present.
It's pretty interesting now that you mention it. That's not something I think I've ever thought about or heard somebody talk about. The fact that, all forms of art tend to like interact and touch us in different ways, but there is kind of an oddly specific interactive feature with video games that is kind of impacting us consistently as it demands interaction from us. As you're playing a game and moving through a level, the fact that you are controlling the character as you move through the level and how that level is designed is kind of interacting and impacting you in a way that, like, looking and appreciating a beautiful painting really couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, your personal experience is always going to have an effect on how you view art. If you watch a movie, your experience with the themes is gonna color that in some way. But games force you to they're tactile. They're forcing you to touch them. Literally, the controller is a separate object from the game, from the software, from the hardware that it's being played on, but you're touching the controller. You're touching the controller, and that is moving the character. And that level of interaction is so much. It's asking so much more of the player than movies or something like that is. Not to downsell movies or literature or anything like that, but
they're different. They're different forms of art, and video games do feature an entirely unique dynamic that you can't really find anywhere else outside of maybe like board games or tabletop games. But they do so in a way that tries to convey to you themes and narratives that are intended to elicit an emotional response while also giving you the opportunity to interact with it.
Yeah. So I think it just creates a different dynamic, and I think that dynamic it's important when you're talking about games, and that's the thing I try to focus on a lot, is the interactivity, that element, that other unspoken element, the melding between media experience and person, the person experiencing it. Where's that crossover? And when the experience and the experiencer become one, that overlap, that middle ground, what happens there? Right. That's probably what's most interesting to me, I would say.
What do you think is a video that you've done that kind of conveys that in a sense, or a video that you've done on your channel that you think shows that off a little bit?
I think honestly, some of the Metal Gear games, especially Metal Gear Solid 5, is a really good example of that. There's this. That game has such a strange history. It has such an odd development history, and when you're playing Venom, your Venom is you, but Venom is also Kojima. Venom is also this history of these games. Like it's all of this stuff in one. But I think that character standing for the audience is probably the most overt and like obvious example I can think of, especially with the final scene of the game. Like it's so blatant because it's Kojima, but that's kind of the most obvious example of the game telling you that the character is not only a character, but it's you too. Yeah, there's definitely some overt meta commentary in The Phantom Pain specifically. It has a lot of that going on. It's a great example that's like
of that too, I think.
That's like the biggest example that I can think of. But I mean, there's other ones. But I mean, really, any game, a lot of games, a lot of RPGs do it with silent protagonists. That's you. That's not the protagonist, it's you. And especially games that allow you to shape the character or make decisions, like Mass Effect, things like that. Those games are big examples of that too, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of like videos that you've kind of worked on in the past, like the Metal Gear Phantom Pain stuff, 2024 was a pretty big year for your channel. You put out a lot of really not only well-performing videos, but just genuinely interesting videos. Do you think you have a favorite video that you worked on in 2024?
2024. I don't know. I don't even know probably what videos I released in the year. It's all kind of a blur. I would say if I had to pick one, it's probably one of the Metal Gear videos. Probably Metal Gear Solid 5. I liked doing that one a lot, and I liked how people responded to it. I liked, I just felt very satisfied with that one. I joke a lot that my favorite video is the one I'm working on because every other video I've ever done is terrible. And the one I'm working on will be terrible soon. But that's one of the videos where I'm like, no, that's a good video. That's fine. I like that.
Yeah. Have you ever worked on a video for a game that you loved, but you found it hard to work on that video because you're kind of just too close to the game? I've had that happen to me twice, actually, where I was working on a video for a specific game, but it didn't end up being a very fun or enjoyable process because I was just too close to the game. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Like you couldn't like properly criticize it, you felt like, because you loved it so much?
Yeah, that is part of it, but also I think when you're too close to something, you already know so much about it that some of the fun and joy that comes from diving deep into games for making videos and doing research, like you already know it so much and so well that like it just feels more like work than it normally would. Has that happened to you before?
More like work.
Because that specifically I'm thinking of when I did a video on Halo 2. I did that in 2020, early 2024. And I'm telling you, that's probably the hardest experience I had making a video. And Halo 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Because just working on that script and getting footage, for some reason, all of the joy that I normally feel when doing research for a video and editing it and making a script, it just wasn't happening with that one. And I think it's because I was too close to the game. I think it's because I already knew so much about it and I was just too close to the project as it were to really have that same kind of joy. So it was a very rough video for me to make. You haven't had that happen before?
I don't think I've had that happen like entirely where I've become soured on a project because of that. But I mean, there's elements to that in everything. I think I'm probably, one of the things I'd like to work on is I think I'm a little too positive about games. I think I'm a positive person in general, but unless I really, really don't like a game, I a lot of the time fail to point out like criticism in a game. Just because I just really like video games, and it's like when I'm playing a good game, it's kind of hard for me to find faults with it sometimes. And a lot of my videos are essays about, the game itself and kind of like what it did well. So it's difficult for me to point out, to find critical points in games that I think are really good. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's happened to me. I think there's pockets of that in some videos, but not entirely.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are some other like obstacles that you think you've tended to have to overcome for your channel? And do you have an example of a video on your channel that you think was particularly difficult for you to make, since we're, talking about overcoming challenges?
Obstacles in general, I think it's the obstacle that I've been overcoming lately, and I still feel like I haven't, fully taken down, but I'm getting there, is just taking my time on videos. And I think this is probably something a lot of people struggle with YouTube. But just because the algorithm is constantly demanding that
it's like a shadow looming over you.
Yeah, there's always that pressure, that's sometimes warranted, but sometimes it comes from, I think, us worrying about, if I don't upload for a month, is my channel gonna go away? And that's something I've had to get over. Because I feel like it's just hindered me with specific projects that I've wanted to work on, where I'm like, well, this is going to take a while and require a lot of work and a lot of time. But I'm starting to get over that, and I'm starting to just, ignore it and just take the time to do stuff and do interesting projects on the side. But that's a really difficult thing, especially when you're just like, you know what, I just need to get this done to get it out, you know, and then you end up maybe rushing it and it's not as good as you wanted it to be or something, you know.
You have a pretty quick turnaround time for your videos. Like, you release a lot of high quality videos in very short amounts of time.
Mm-hmm. Do
you feel like you put a lot of pressure on yourself to do that?
Yeah, for sure. It used to be much worse. I think it's my upload frequency has definitely gone down. I would say in the past like 6 months, and that's an active thing of just kind of being like, no, I'm just going to finish this, and it's just going to take however much time it takes. But I think it'll never go down fully. Like, you'll never see me gone for 4 months or something, because I'm just a workaholic. I work all the time. So, there's always going to be content.
I think I'm a lot like that too. Yeah. It can be pretty rough for, I think, for people like you and me who genuinely, we do just love working on the content. So sometimes I found myself like forcing myself. I'm like, I'm not going to work on anything right now. I'm going to go do something else for a while. It can be pretty difficult because even when you're not working, you're thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I find myself doing that. I'll be doing something else and I'll be thinking about things for the video I want to be working on.
Yeah. And you're like, why am I sitting on the couch watching a movie? I could be working on stuff. Yeah.
I have that happen a lot. Do you think that any of these obstacles have impacted one particular video that you've made that it's just you think that it really could have been better? Like, do you have a least favorite video that you've released?
Yeah, probably. I think there's definitely, especially, you know, over a year or two ago when I was just trying to like churn out videos as much as possible. I think back then it was the idea of succeeding on YouTube was more important to me than making quality stuff. And I felt like I had to sacrifice quality a lot to get stuff out as fast as I could. So I think a lot of those videos just aren't necessarily as good as I'd like them to be. I don't go back and watch videos a lot, so they could all be terrible. I have no idea. But I think like probably the Yakuza series probably definitely isn't as good as I want it or would have wanted it to be. But I was just churning stuff out at that time.
What do you think is something like one notable thing you might go, if you could just go and like tweak and change, what do you think is something that you might do to one of the Yakuza videos that like maybe bothered you?
Since then, I've gotten a lot better at the way that I review games or cover games is, you know, I kind of go, I do it in like chronological order, let's say. So I go through the game from start to finish, and as I go through the game, I start talking about specific points. You know, I'll have a big list of big overarching points that I want to make, big themes, big gameplay issues, the gameplay overall, stuff like that I will break from the story to talk about and then come back to the story. And the story is like the framing device that keeps you grounded, and then you branch off from there. But back then I was not as good at weaving that story and taking the viewer on like a journey. I would just sort of like, you know, give you a bunch of points at the beginning and then just like tell you the whole story of, you know, a 15-20 hour game or whatever, all at once. And I think that pacing is probably something I would tweak.
Yeah. You got accused of plot summaries a few times.
Yeah, which I think is always going to happen. I think that's always going to happen, and that's just the nature of the way I've decided to, the way I've made my format. Because I want the viewer to know the whole, have the entire context of the story, and I want to be comprehensive when I'm covering it. So I think that's always going to happen. There's always going to be people that are like, oh, this is just a plot summary. When I'm like spending 20 minutes dissecting, whatever the gameplay or the mechanics and the systems, it doesn't really matter. It's just a plot summary.
Something I got a comment on one of my videos recently that I thought was pretty interesting. He said something along the lines of, how is this a retrospective? This is just a bunch of information I could find on Wikipedia, which it was funny to me for a couple of, the first reason it was funny to me is because I always give a lot of subjective analysis in my videos. Like, there's always going to be sections throughout where I'm just giving my subjective opinion. Like, there's a lot of subjective analysis in there, but also whenever I'm consuming retrospectives, part of the fun for me is getting that information in a stimulating and fun format,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just not sure what he would have been expecting to receive, like breaking new interviews with people that we have, information that we haven't heard of. Like it's what these videos are. It's information about the game. It's the game. It's information about the game, what the game is, and then some subjective opinions about. That's what a retrospective is. And I just found that to be really amusing.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, I think like, unless some big information has come out, or unless you've done a really good job at your research and you've found some new breaking interview or something, generally if we're all covering Silent Hill, we're all dealing with the same game and the same information. It's about what we choose to focus on. It's about how we frame the story, the story of the development, the story of the game itself, and it's about the personal experience that we had with the game, and that's where it differs. That's where that's where you find people covering the game differently. But I think to somebody that doesn't really care about that, it's just the same information.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the case, but I really feel like one of the most appealing factors about videos like the ones we make are that a lot of people, they want to just talk about or hear about a game that they like, mm-hmm. because it's you can play the game again, but there is a different like pleasure in hearing somebody talk about a game that you're really interested in, or getting the chance to comment and interact with it. I think that's why reaction content does so well, because people are very excited to see someone else talk about something that they themselves personally like. So
yeah,
I feel
definitely.
I feel like that's part of the appeal of what we do, because it's people are excited to listen to someone else talk about kind of their experience and what the game may or may not have meant to them.
Yeah, people comment or message me all the time and say that, oh, I'm sorry, but like I fall, I this might be offensive, but I fall asleep to your videos all the time, and I'm like, I don't care. That's fantastic. I mean, any way that you want to enjoy it. Obviously, the best way to enjoy it is to actually watch it and engage with the stuff that I'm saying. But if you're getting some form of entertainment out of it that I didn't initially intend, then go for it. I don't care. Yeah, that's great.
I think we've both said before that we make second monitor content.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kind of stuff that you put on your second monitor while you're playing Marvel Rivals or something.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's fine as long as people are getting entertainment out of it. I didn't, a few years ago, I never expected that people would even click my video, let alone would be, actively like using it as some form of secondary entertainment. So, I mean, it's better than nothing.
I think it's great that people fall asleep to my videos. I've had a couple people say, they love to fall asleep to my videos. Please do that. Make a playlist. Let the ads run. I make more money that way.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But no, I relate to that, I think. Well, I know I do, because back in 2020, when we were everybody was dealing with the lockdowns, and the shut-ins and stuff. I didn't have a whole lot to do. I wasn't making content or anything yet, and I didn't really want to watch TV or watch movies. I didn't really like. I was playing a bunch of games at the time, but I was tired. I would put on like long form retrospective videos, and I would just like lay in my bed and like half watch them, half listen to them, and eventually just fall asleep to them. So
Yeah.
I personally, I know what that feels like. And it was very nice. It was very nice to just listen to someone talk about an old game that I liked. Silent Hill videos, Resident Evil videos, things of that nature. So I think I relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all probably did it at one point. That was kind of why we, at least, the newer people got into it in the first place. Because I did that too. I used to put on people's videos when I was at work all the time, and that was and it was around that time as well, so I definitely did the same thing.
Yeah, I remember when I was working a marketing job, I vividly remember one day where I threw on I finished a video game 7-hour Castlevania video, and I would watch about an hour to an hour and a half of it every morning for like a week. I just did that. I would just get in, I would have some coffee, and as I was like getting into my groove of work, I would just let that run for like an hour to an hour and a half. It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about making video game content, retrospectives, and things of that nature, but as we like get into this content creation, I think inevitably all of us start realizing we want to kind of be artistic in different areas, different ventures. So is there a kind of content that you're hoping to start pursuing, but you just haven't yet?
Yeah, there's a few ideas I have. I'm actually working on one idea right now that is it's definitely not my normal lane. It's still like video game related, but it's definitely more ambitious and not my normal format that I usually go down. And it requires a lot more time and effort, those things that we were talking about before. So I am, that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is trying to branch out. That's what I think I want this new year to be, is, taking more chances, taking more risks, and pursuing more ambitious ideas.
Do you have something specific in mind, or like a non like retrospective type of content that maybe appeals to you?
Yeah, I mean, this thing, I don't really want to say what it is yet,
but you can.
But yeah, that is non-retrospective content for sure. It's not about like a specific game. I mean, I think everybody that covers games wants to make a game eventually.
I think I've seen that to be the case.
Yeah. So I've been doing some stuff with that. I haven't really said anything about it because I don't want people to be like, oh, he's making a game, but it's,
the thought has crossed your mind. You've thought about, like, you've probably given some thought to what it would look like, and if that's something that you would be willing to invest time in.
Yeah. I'm working on some stuff. But games take a while to make, so it's not.
They're very difficult.
It's not going to be anytime soon. But yeah, that's a. I mean, before I wanted to be, before I wanted to make YouTube videos about games, like before that idea ever even crossed my mind, I wanted to make games. I think anybody that loves games at some point in their life was like, I want to make a game, or I think I could make a good game. So yeah, I definitely want to do that. That's a big focus. It's just about finding the time, finding the hours. There's only so many hours.
That's really the hardest part, is the time investment, because you got to basically be a one-man army.
If I could get 6 more hours in the day,
well, the problem is
change everything.
You would need 6 more hours that other people don't have, because otherwise it would just cancel.
That's true.
Out. Yeah,
that's true.
I've often said, like, if I could just pause time for like 30 minutes a day, it would change everything. You know?
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Oof. That'd be a good one. That'd be a good answer to the superpower question. What superpower would you want? I want to pause time for 30 minutes every day.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Back to the video game like retrospective stuff that we do, or analysis, or video essay, whatever you want to call it. Are there any big projects in that vein that you've thought of taking on, but you just they seem so gargantuan to the point where like you're trying to like wait until maybe you have some extra free time or something like that to attempt to cover?
I mean, I want to cover every game, but I'm gonna die someday. you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like so. Well, when I originally started YouTube, I started it because I had seen Tim Rogers' Tokimeki Memorial video, and I think if you watch some of my early videos, you can definitely tell. I had a lot of comments saying, you know, Tim Rogers type beat and stuff like that. Yeah. Because that was definitely a lot of my inspiration in the beginning. And the original idea that I had was I'm going to cover the Shin Megami Tensei series in its entirety, every single game, every single spin-off. And I think I actually started the project. That was the first project I started working on. I was playing Megami Tensei 1 and 2 and some other games like spin-off stuff. I think I played Last Bible. I made a huge spreadsheet organizing all the games and like how long they would each take to beat and whether they were accessible, whether they were released in English, all this stuff. And I started writing scripts for them. And I think I got like 3 or 4 games in and I was like, I do not have the ability to do this yet. Like this is far past what I can actually pull off. So I was like, well, maybe I'll start with some small stuff, you know, like a single game. And that was when I made the 13 Sentinels video, which was my very first video on YouTube. And then it just kind of, it's not like it never came back. The ideas always come back, but it's just so large that I don't even know how to begin to approach it. So. Yeah,
I remember a few months ago, you were revisiting that idea. You had a concept that you had started like working out about maybe like visiting it every single day. But I think you saw someone else do something similar and then you decided to abandon it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't entirely know that I've abandoned it, but I've abandoned it for right now. The idea wasn't the Shin Megami Tensei series, but it was the Persona series, and I wanted to make a video on one of the Persona games, and I wanted to the idea was to play it to match the days that I play it with the game. So you know, for anybody who doesn't know, those games have like calendars and they're very focused on time management, and days pass in the game. So I would only play the game on the days that were in game. If it was April 13th, I would play the game until April 13th was over, and then I would stop, and then I would play it on the 14th. And I was going to record footage to, you know, show that it was legit, that I wasn't faking this. And I was going to frame it as like the Persona diary, and I would document what happened each day and sort of how, you know, actively think about the characters and like what they're experiencing for that day and how I went about things and stuff. But I think, yeah, somebody was kind of already doing it for Persona 4. So I was like, I don't know. I think it's a good idea, but I don't know. It feels weird now. It doesn't feel as special.
I feel like that will kind of knock the wind out of your sails.
Oh, did we get disconnected?
No, I'm getting some glitches on my end, but you're still here on my end. It's just, I'm sure it'll straighten itself out.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we're back.
Now we're back.
Yeah, we had a few glitches, a few errors there.
Where do you want me to restart from the top?
No, I got it all.
Oh, you got it all? Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I didn't lose you. I think you just lost me a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it was just I just the idea isn't as appealing now, I think. And I don't know, it doesn't feel right, first of all, because somebody else already did it, and the idea just doesn't feel as unique or novel, I guess.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a couple of times where I would get an idea and I'd be like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And then I see someone doing that idea and I'm like, oh, never mind. It's not like I couldn't also do it, but for some reason, psychologically, when you see someone else has already like started doing it, for some reason, it makes it seem like you're going to have less fun doing it for some reason.
Yeah, I think that it's also too like the kind of the appeal when you have an idea like that, the appeal of the idea is the fact that you're like, oh, I've never seen anybody do this. This is like untapped, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think when you see that it's not untapped, and the idea to do a Persona video where you're playing the game with the calendar isn't like, I mean, those games have been out for so long by now. Like it's not exactly that original, but so to expect that somebody hadn't done that already is asking a lot. But so it's kind of like it wakes you up a little bit, and you're like, I'm not the only one on the internet. You know? Yeah.
Turns out there's other people like with ideas.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, I feel like we've talked a lot about content. This is about the point in the interview where I want to ask you some more. Yeah, content. I'm not from Boston, but it sounds like it. But I think this is this is about the time in the interview where I like to try to ask more personal questions, so we can just get to know you as a person a little bit better. So I'm going to ask you a few of those, starting with, what is something that you would like your viewers to know about you, both as a creator and also as a person?
To know about me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like anybody to really know
about you.
Anything about me.
You're mysterious. You're Sigma.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really like post a lot online, to be honest, outside of the videos. Like I don't have like super active social medias. I don't know. I like X-Files. I do like X-Files. You can see it behind me right now.
You can't see it on the screen the way I have you.
Oh, okay.
But I can confirm there's a large X-Files poster on his wall.
And there's an X-Files box set right there. Yeah. I don't know. I like X-Files. I like Star Trek, I guess. That's something that you'll probably never know about me from my channel.
You're not going to do I played every Star Trek game?
I've thought about it, but
Starfleet Command?
It's not exactly the the gold mine of great games. That would be a pretty arduous task, unfortunately. I have thought about it though.
So that thought has occurred. Do you play a bunch of Star Trek games?
It has, but there's a lot of games and they're not great. There's honestly, it would be a fun video just to talk about the. Have you ever played you probably never played it, but there's a game called Star Trek Bridge Crew.
I haven't played it.
It's a VR game that that puts you in the shoes of like one of 4 of the roles on the Starship Enterprise.
I think I've seen footage of that before.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the best Star Trek games ever made. It doesn't look very good. It's not like the best game ever, but it so accurately represents like being on one of those ships and being like in command or fulfilling one of these roles, and it requires teamwork and stuff. It's such a damn good game, but the community died so fast. It's a 4-player game. You need like other people to play. You can play with AI, but it's not as fun.
Like the experience is yelling at other people to raise the shields or whatever.
Not yelling at them, working together as a team.
Oh, synergy.
Yes. Yeah. But it's so like just nobody plays it. You have to like actively get a group of people together to play it. But it's so damn good, and it's such a great Star Trek game. And it was looked at as like a novel VR experience, because it wasn't, you're not running around environments or shooting or something like that. But it's so good. It's so good.
Damn. You could probably make a video on that somehow.
Probably. That's the one thing I want people to know about me is that I love Star Trek Bridge Crew.
He loves Star Trek Bridge Crew. Well, what are some games you've been playing recently for fun, casually?
I've actually been playing a lot since it's the holidays. I've been like all over the place. I've been playing Marvel Rivals recently. I've been playing Path of Exile 2. I played Ace Combat 7 recently. That was really good. I played that on my Steam Deck over the holidays. And the Mad Max game that came out in like 2015 or whatever. The open world.
That's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, I never got around to it. And, I've heard it's amazing. And I was playing that on my Steam Deck.
The one problem with that game is it gets repetitive. It's hard to see through to the end, but I love it. It's great.
It is, but it never makes the choice to do something like unfun instead of doing like the coolest thing you possibly could. Like even just the little towers that make the areas safer, knocking them down is just hitting them as hard as you can with your car. Like that's cool. You don't have to get out of your car and like hold B or something. Like you just crash through them. Like it's just such a fun game. I can imagine that it probably gets repetitive though. It's an open world thing.
But it is great. I think that's a phenomenal game.
Yeah, but I've been playing that. I've been playing. I mean, there's a list. I play a lot of games. Honestly, I try to play as many games as I can, as many new games as I can, as many indie games as I can. So I'm always playing like a lot of games and trying out new games because I just want to see what's out there. I want to experience as much as I can.
Okay. Have any of the games you've been playing stood out to you for any specific reason?
Anything that's I went back and replayed Marvel's Midnight Suns recently.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, it was like a deck builder. It was made by the people that made XCOM. So it was like a deck builder tactics game set in the Marvel universe. And it was pretty underrated. I remember when it came out, everybody thought it was a mobile game, and I kind of did too. And I'm not exactly the biggest fan of like superhero stuff, but the game was just so fun. It was just so good, and it had so many systems that I like relationship builder systems and like training people with XP and stuff. Like it was just such a good game, and it just got overlooked pretty heavily. I think the story is kind of not great. There's definitely faults to it. It's not a perfect game, but it was criminally underrated. I think there's a YouTube
pretty satisfying
title.
loop.
Yes, yeah, I think so. It's a bit grindy if you want to get everything, and it does get repetitive at the end, doing battles over and over again. But it is pretty damn fun.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I've heard of that one, Midnight Suns, but I didn't play it. I'm not the biggest Marvel guy. Like I have a few choice Marvel characters that I'm a big fan of, like Punisher, Daredevil, Spider-Man. But overall, we've talked about that before. I tend to lean more interested in the DC material.
So I mean, so do I. It doesn't,
It'd be really cool if we could get some more DC games instead of all Batman games. And I love the Arkham games, but it'd be cool to get something.
Yeah, playing that game, you're like, man, I wish this was DC I wish I was this was like Green Lantern and stuff right now. That would be sick. But it's just it's Marvel's more successful, so they get more properties and stuff. Batman is the cash cow, so you're going to get more Batman games, unfortunately.
I mean, they did that Avengers game, and they did the Guardians of the Galaxy game, so like they're trying to find other properties. But well, I mean, Monolith is doing that Wonder Woman game. We'll see how that turns out, but I don't know.
There's a Blade game coming out too.
That'll be cool, but I think like you said, Green Lantern is really what we need. I think we need like a Green Lantern RPG. Like you create your own Lantern. I don't want to play as Hal Jordan. Let me create my own Green Lantern. That'd be cool.
You get to pick your color of the emotional spectrum. Oh, that would be sick.
That would be super cool. I would love that.
That would be sick. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing sitting on $1 million idea?
Yeah, but I mean, is it though? Because like nobody likes Green Lantern.
I feel like they would if they got a good Green Lantern property. The best.
It would. Yeah, it would need to be like a movie or a show first, probably.
The biggest issue with Green Lantern is all of the best Green Lantern content is locked to the comic book realm.
Yep. Yeah. There's really never been like a good mass appeal Green Lantern thing. Like
Green Lantern is, I mean, comic books are kind of they kind of self gatekeep because not a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people do want to read comics, but not like mass majority people, you know, like because it gets daunting and overwhelming with how many there are and how they connect in different ways. But like they had like a Green Lantern animated series, but it wasn't that good. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, it was okay. It was fine. I liked it when I was younger because I didn't, care that much, and I just wanted more Green Lantern. But it was okay. Yeah. And
they've had one or two, I think, animated flicks that were like Emerald Knights and whatnot that were pretty good. But I'm not a huge fan of Jeff Johns as a writer, but the Darkest Night stuff that they did for the comic run was great. Like we need
the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run might be like the best run in DC history.
Yeah, it was mad good, and we need something like nearing that love and care of the Green Lantern character in a more mass appeal medium for the character.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's a major shame we haven't gotten like an animated series or a game or something. A movie.
Yeah.
Like we had one movie, but it wasn't treating the character with very much reverence, I don't think.
You heard it here first, folks. Green Lantern, untapped market. Do it.
I don't think that movie is that bad, by the way.
I mean, it's pretty bad. It's not, I mean, now that we've had like more, I think back when there wasn't very many comic book movies, it was pretty bad. But now that there's been a slew of really bad comic book movies, I think it's probably better than some of the worst ones, but I think it's still pretty bad.
It's mediocre for sure. Like it wasn't as good as a bunch of the comic book movies that came out around the same time. That was 2010, right? Was that 2010?
I think so, yeah. Somewhere around there.
That's like, it came out like a year and a half after The Dark Knight. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good fate for a movie. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, DC, this is, Batman's DC Comics. This is the next DC comic movie. I loved The Dark Knight. And then you get Green Lantern. So that was kind of a shame.
It's not a good look.
But back to video games. Are there any video games that you would consider important to you personally that like you hold in high regard that are special to you?
I mean, there's a lot. I think, I mean, obviously, as I talked about, I think there's no games that are more, personal to me than Legacy of Kain and the Metal Gear series. I think those two, are really, really big. I think one, that I haven't talked about that's pretty important to me is the Tekken series.
Tekken. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't even really like fighting games, but I just have so many formative memories with my friends and my dad, especially. Me and my dad bonded a lot over video games when I was a kid. And we played Tekken 3 like all the time, like nonstop, just Tekken 3, Tekken 4 too, as well, and tag team. Yeah, I think those games are pretty important to me as well. But I just don't like fighting games. So like playing the new ones, it's like, well, you've removed the part of it that's important to me, is like playing it with my friends, or like, I'm not playing games with my dad right now.
Yeah, they're just fighting games at that point.
Yeah, it's just a fighting game. So
did you ever watch the Tekken anime?
I didn't. I heard it was pretty good, but I haven't gotten around to watching it.
Okay. Well, that is like the part you like. That you like the story of Tekken, right?
I do like the story of Tekken. Yeah, that was a big appeal to me as a kid too. Was just it just felt like it had such a weird and excessive lore and like backstory with the devil gene and stuff and the Kazuma family. Like it was just all crazy. But yeah.
Have you ever considered like what it might look like to try to do videos on the Tekken games?
Yeah, the only way that I would possibly be able to approach it is I'm bad at fighting games, and this is going to be a journey of me getting better at fighting games. Because you know, you have so many people have covered all of the Tekken games, and they've covered them from the lens of I've played fighting games my whole life and I'm like really good at them. And I would have to cover it as like each game I'm getting better at something and like explaining a mechanic a little bit more in depth. I think it would have to be through that lens probably.
It'd be an interesting video title would be I hate fighting games, but I love Tekken.
That's
If you just use that title and then it's like an hour video and like if it's an interesting enough thumbnail, like that's pretty good. I'd probably click on that. Be like, I hate fighting games.
Damn
I love
it.
Tekken.
Well, I have to put that on a Post-it note. Unfortunately, I have so many things I'm working on right now, but that's gonna have to go on the monitor down here.
Oh man, the same. Like I've had 2 or 3 new ideas in the past like 5 days. I'm like, I can't. There's no room for these. And then I sat down and like started outlining what it would look like.
It's the worst. Having a good idea is the worst thing that can happen to you.
I'm sitting on one idea. I'm like, damn, this would take me like a month and a half of focused, not working on anything else work to even start to approach it. And I really, really want to do it, but I don't think financially I can afford it. I really don't think I can do it right now, and that really sucks. So I might just like try to chip away at it or something. Yeah.
Do you ever get the thing where when you like speaking earlier, we were talking about, you know, finding out that your idea has already been done. Whenever I'm working on an idea I feel like is new or like a new approach, I'm always paranoid while I'm working on it that somebody's going to come out with something.
Yes.
You know, somebody will be like, oh, my new video's out. And I'm like, oh, it's not the fucking thing that I'm working on, is it? You know,
this idea that I'm talking about is that I'm having that exact. The reason I'm not saying what it is because I don't want someone else to do it.
Yep.
You know, that's why, because I'm fucking paranoid about it.
That's another pressure, though. That's another pressure. It's not just the algorithm. It's also like, you know, I have this idea and I don't want anybody else to do it first.
Yeah, it's hard, man. That's why I'm sure you have this too, where I've got like 3 ideas and I'm like going and like just typing a few sentences on it and be like, come on, I really just want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a phase in the process of making a video that you hate the most?
Oh man, there's 2 that I'm trying to decide between right now. You know, I think it's, well, it's either editing or recording. I do like editing because there is like creative, you know, it's creatively fulfilling in some ways, and especially when you're trying new stuff, it feels really good to like pull something off that looks visually appealing. Like I love making title cards. That's been my thing for like the past year that I've just gotten obsessed with, is making like cool title cards. So I can't be editing. It has to be recording. Recording is the worst.
It's awful.
If I've written something that I really love, then I don't mind reading it and it goes by like that. But it's not always like that, you know? I think. Yeah.
The second I sit down to start trying to record, I seem to lose the ability to speak. I start slurring words and making mouth noises, and and the problem is every single time it happens, and every single time the only cure is to just do it for 30 minutes and then like not be able to use most of what I recorded, and then like it goes away and I start.
Yeah. The other thing too is like you just want to get it done, so you keep pushing through it, but then your read is so bad because you're pushing through it and your like throat is it's terrible. It's awful.
I just like literally yesterday finished editing some of the audio for an upcoming video, and like even just editing the audio was brutal, man. It just and it's especially bad when you're recording and you keep messing up, but you don't want to stop and redo it every time, so you just have all these errors and throughout, and you're like, this is just gonna make editing this twice as hard, but I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's certainly not. Every time I'm done with editing at the end of the day, I'm like, oh God, it's over. Like, it's just a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, I've had that happen pretty much every time too.
Yeah.
Well, let's go outside of video games for a second. Why don't you tell me about some non-video game related media that inspires you?
Oh, inspires me. I mean, I think anytime that I see like a good movie or, you know, good writing or something like that, that usually inspires me. Even though it's not, you know, like if you watch a movie, a lot of those ideas or skills aren't transferring over to, you know, what we do normally. But I think it's just seeing someone work really hard and make something really good that means a lot to them is usually inspiring to me in any way. Literature is a little more direct. Books are a little more direct because it's, you know, people have asked me for advice on making videos before, and I always try to give advice that people haven't, that people don't give a lot. Like, it's easy to hear, you know, make a good title or something, or get good thumbnails, you know, whatever. But I always try to tell people, like, read a lot, because if you're writing all the time, and if that's a big crux of what you're doing, you need to be consuming like good writing. And that's obvious writing advice, but I feel like people don't think about YouTube in that way a lot. So reading a lot, I feel like, gives me good ideas.
That would be your advice if somebody asked, you'd be like, read some literature. What are three books you would recommend?
God, it's probably bad. I'm not like well read, unfortunately. So probably I like Cormac McCarthy a lot. It's probably something by him. Probably Blood Meridian, I guess. That's like the most basic bitch recommendation. My favorite writer is C.S. Lewis, and my favorite thing that he's done is probably the Space Trilogy, so I'd recommend that. And I don't know. I don't know. You only get two.
You only get two. We'll take.
Yeah, you only get two.
You said a trilogy, so you gave me more than two, actually.
Yeah, Space Trilogy is actually 3 books, so that's 4. So I overachieved. Oh, Gene Wolfe, the Book of the New Sun. Okay, that's really good too.
All right.
Yeah.
There's some good There's your favorite son's literature suggestions for the audience.
Yes. Yeah.
C.S. Lewis has a quote that I really, really love. I forget the exact phrase. I've brought it up before, but he said, when I was a child, I did childish things, and when I grew up, I put away the childish things, including the desire to be very grown up. Have you heard that quote from him?
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, because I really like that, because, you know, I feel like we spend a lot of time hearing about, you know, grow up, do this, do that, but there is a certain maturity to being comfortable with, you know, joy. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, a lot of people today have, like, you know, so like they're uncomfortable in social situations. They have anxiety. They're always thinking about this stuff. I feel like people have lost the ability to just like be happy and have fun. Yeah. You know, there's been kind of there is especially with there's this like alpha male culture thing going around, which, you know, I think I love a lot of that stuff, because more than half of it's probably true, but there is a certain flux with the grind culture, the hustle culture, that begins to view like basic joy as childish.
Yes.
Like being joyful in any capacity means that you're not struggling, you're not in the grind, you're not taking it seriously, and I think that's not healthy. By all means, work hard, go to the gym, work out, do all of those things, but if you've begun to associate success with misery, I think you're missing something.
Yeah, a lot of I've seen a lot of those people lately on Twitter, kind of like infiltrating the gaming space. A lot of people talking about how video games are childish. You should never touch a video game. It's the worst thing you can do. Yeah, and that's yeah. I don't know. It's just, listen. I work a lot. I work every day, every single day. I took a few days off for Christmas recently. That was like the first full day that I didn't work in like, I don't know, a long time, maybe like a year. It's been a long year. But I think I still find time to do the things that I enjoy. And if video games are something that you enjoy and that can help you relax, or maybe you just enjoy challenging yourself and you like to play games that are challenging, whether through mechanics, gameplay, or like themes, just do it, man. It doesn't matter. As long as you're getting your shit done, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, you gotta have joy, man. And honestly, I think that video games, movies, art, literature, media, I think all of those things serve such a more important purpose than just like time wasters and relaxers if you let them. Because I'll tell you something. I go to the gym around pretty much 5 days a week now. I go to the gym a lot. It doesn't seem that way because I'm wearing this big shirt, but I do go to the gym a lot. I power lift, I lift weights a lot. But when I was in my early 20s, I was like 145 pounds. I'm over 6 feet tall. I was anorexic, and I had a serious problem with that. And whenever I started like wanting to get healthy and get fit, like the protagonist of video games was an enormous like motivator for that. Like, yeah, I would see like badass characters who I thought were really cool, and I would play games and I'd be like, wow, I actually just want to look like this character does. And that would, whenever I was playing video games, that would motivate me. I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna play this for an hour, and then I'm gonna go lift weights. So yeah. I think that if you're just doing it to waste time, then maybe, if you have time to waste and you're getting all your shit done, like you said, then yeah, maybe that's fine. But you can choose to view things in a way that will motivate you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's different for everybody. You're going to find people that look at, like a space marine and they're like, I don't care. That doesn't make me motivated. But, they see some quote or something, whatever it is for you, you got to find that. But at the end of the day, you can work all the time, and it's something I struggle with too, but you have to find time to chill out and take a breather. There's literally no point to life if you're just working all the time. There's just, what's the point,
Yeah, what are you doing it for? What are you striving for at that point?
If you never stop to like reap the benefits, to reap the reward, the satisfaction, because you don't get the satisfaction if you're always working. You never get the satisfaction of the work. The satisfaction of the work is to sit down and think about what you've done and revel in it for a little bit and then get back to it.
What would you say are like 3 hobbies that you enjoy doing for relaxing, for chilling?
I have a problem with hobbies. I have too many hobbies. I take on way too many hobbies, and then I don't have enough time to do them. This last year, I got into Warhammer a little bit, and that's been pretty fun. And it's very like putting the figures together. If people don't know, you have to like put the figures together and glue them together and then paint them, and it's very time consuming and it's very detail oriented, but it's very me. Like that helps me relax, is just like mindlessly focusing on something without really having to work my brain very much. Like as soon as it becomes routine, then you just know what you're doing and you can kind of shut your brain off a little bit. That calms me down. That helps me relax. Skateboarding and probably lifting, something like that.
Lifting. That's fun.
Physical activities.
You like to skateboard a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I can't right now because it's snowing a million feet per day, and there's nowhere to do it. But yeah, I like to skateboard in the summer and stuff.
Would you say you're good at it?
Nope.
You just do it. You
Terrible.
Just do you,
Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah, skating always was something that like seemed fun to me. Like there were a few times in my life that I, went to a park and kind of played with it and practiced with a little bit, and I got manageable enough to remain on the board while I go around and lean but I never got to the point where I could like ollie or something.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. It's really hard, and but it's really difficult. But it's a physical activity, so that's good. You're like getting out, you're moving around, especially with us people that sit inside all day for work. So that's good, but it's difficult, and it requires a lot of time put in to like master the skills and like get better. And that's something that appeals to me in a hobby, is like something that I can get better at, because I personally like making progress at things. That's not how everybody is, but for me, that's what like stimulates my brain, so that keeps me invested. So yeah, it's like got everything, but I'm not very good. I'm really bad.
What are you listening to when you're skating or lifting? What's on your skate gym playlist?
I had to do a sponsorship for a headphone company, and they told me to like pick a thing that you use the headphones while you're doing. So it was skating, because that's what I was using them most for at the time. And I made a joke out of the fact that like, oh, these are great when you're falling on your skateboard and you're listening to Hum, because I just like that band. So I guess it would be Hum.
Hum's been on your playlist?
It has. I've been listening to them a lot. I don't know. I listen to a ton of music. I've really been liking this band called Jockstrap lately. I've been listening to them a lot, and revisiting a lot of 9 Inch Nails.
I've been listening to a lot of 9 Inch Nails recently too, but that's just because of what I've been working on.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of...
I would assume you're probably more of a fan of like post 05 9 Inch Nails, right?
No, actually, I think their album that I've listened to the most is probably Pretty Hate Machine.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a Pretty Hate Machine is actually more like the later albums than I think the middle albums are, because like my favorite 9 Inch Nails when I used to listen to them a lot more were the Broken EP, the Downward Spiral, and the Fragile. And then
Downward Spiral is insanely good.
Well, like it's one of the all-time greatest albums ever made.
It's amazing. It's great.
But it was that era, I think, particularly Broken and Downward Spiral, is like when 9 Inch Nails was like edgy and like heavy, but Pretty Hate Machine, most of With Teeth and everything after, I think Trent Reznor, I think there was no more angst left within him after With Teeth. Yeah,
it's weird listening to Pretty Hate Machine because it's so much like more like synth heavy and like poppy than you would imagine,
Yeah.
So I kind of like it for that, because it's just so like, it's just like this weird kind of
I feel like
era.
it's more similar to his later stuff than like the Downward Spiral is,
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I listen, I've been listening to that. I've been listening to Machine Girl, Deftones, a lot of Prince lately.
Deftones is great.
Yeah, Deftones are really good. Young Thug. I've been listening to a lot of Young Thug, actually. Ween. I've been listening to a lot of Ween lately. Yeah, I don't know. I listen to a lot of stuff. So.
Okay, that's cool. I always like to ask people like what's on their playlist, because I think you can tell a reasonable amount about somebody by what they listen to a lot of,
Yeah. I think if you're saying like gym playlist specifically, I almost exclusively listen to like hip hop and like EDM in the gym.
Okay. Yeah, stuff to get you pumped.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hype.
You see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I don't care about what's like on your Spotify Wrapped or whatever," but I'm like, I actually do care about what some people's Spotify Wrapped because I'm interested in that because I can see parts of someone in what they've been listening to. So anytime I see somebody's like, "We don't care what's on your Spotify Wrapped," I'm like, actually, I kind of do.
Yeah, it's a good litmus test.
I do care what's on your Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah, it tells you a little bit about somebody. It doesn't have to be bad, but it's it's like, okay, I didn't expect that from you.
My Spotify Wrapped is going to be destroyed this next year because we found a Google Home outside.
Ooh.
Yeah, some people in our complex moved out and they left like 3 boxes of just stuff that they used to have, and they just like a sign that said "Take what you want," And in there was a Google Home. So I synced it up with my Spotify Premium, and my girlfriend would have like Christmas music playing on a super low volume for like hours. And now it's not just that, like, it's because I told her, play whatever you want. I'm paying for Spotify Premium, use it however you like. So now it's going, I don't even know what it's going to look like by the end of the year. It's not going to be
out of your hands
me anymore.
Yeah, we have an Alexa, so I think it uses like Amazon Music or something, and it won't let you play specific songs unless you buy it. But I only use it when I'm in the kitchen, like cooking, so I don't really care what 4 songs it plays for like the 20 minutes I'm in there.
I'm sure you could probably manually sync it to your spot. That's what I had to do. I had to go like manually sync it to my Spotify.
I think you can, but also the problem you just said, I don't want whatever my girlfriend's listening to, like fucking One Direction or some shit on my Spotify.
I don't really care that much. One Direction.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I think we've had a pretty solid interview here. It's been fun. We've talked about a lot of cool things. Do you have any closing remarks or things that you would like the audience to know about what your goals are for the rest of the year, 2025?
Yeah, I want to make more ambitious stuff. I'm going to be trying some new things, and I'm going to be putting a lot more effort into the videos. Last year was kind of like refining what I'm doing and making it better. And I think this year is going to be trying new things and getting good at those new things.
All right, cool. So you're going this year for Your Favorite Son is going to be trying new things, getting better at new things, and maybe some more unique and ambitious content coming for the channel.
Yes.
All right, very cool. Well,
expect it. Look forward to it.
Expect it. Look forward to it. Go subscribe to Your Favorite Son if you haven't already. I'm sure you are, but his channel is very similar to mine. We put out similar content, although somehow we're never talking about remotely similar games. It just works out like that.
No, I don't watch a lot of people that do what we do on YouTube because I don't want to watch videos from series that I'm going to cover. But I always watch your videos because we're never talking about the same games. Yeah.
It just works out that way. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on board and letting me talk to you for an hour. I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
I think it's been fun.
Yeah.
And maybe you can have another episode a few months from now, and I'll bring you back.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd love to.
We'll talk more about these projects you've been alluding to, and we can touch base on how they worked out.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have something to show by then.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment letting us know if you had any insight on our conversation. Subscribe to Your Favorite Son. Subscribe to me, and I will see you in the next video. But until then, that's all I've got for you.